All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this June Resource of the Month presentation from RIT Libraries. My name is Claire Payne, and I am the College of Art and Design Liaison Librarian here at RIT. And today I'm excited to highlight a few things you may not know that are all part of JSTOR, the resource JSTOR at the library. And since it's June and it's Pride Month, we're going to use as our examples resources that can help you learn a little more about LGBTQ history and culture, but the primary source type things we're going to talk about, there are a lot of different topics that could be explored. So most people know JSTOR as a place to find journal articles, and it's really great for that, right? In fact, JSTOR originally stood for journal storage, which I don't think it technically does anymore. But why I wanted to do this presentation this month especially is because as of August of this year, at the end of the summer, Artstor, which is a repository of millions of images, primarily, there may be a few other media types in there as well, which you may also be familiar with, is going to be fully integrated into JSTOR. They are going to be the same tool, and Artstor is pretty much already fully integrated. They've been working on that for the last couple of years, but the old Artstor will be turned off as of August. So JSTOR is going to include those Artstor images. The repository also includes many primary source documents and books. So there's lots happening beyond journal articles. So we're going to do just kind of a quick demonstration of a few different ways you might research and explore. So let me open up the RIT Libraries homepage, which is rit.edu/library. And I always encourage folks to start your research or your exploration or whatever it is you may be doing here, so that you have full, no paywall access to everything that RIT subscribes to, which includes many, many collections in JSTOR. And to get to JSTOR, there's a few different ways you can do it. You can click this Databases tab here on the homepage and type in JSTOR, which brings up two results, right? You have JSTOR itself and then also Artstor, because it has this note in there about the content, resources, and functionality moving to JSTOR. You can also get to JSTOR from the library's homepage if you do search collections and then databases. And then you can do a search or you can browse, whatever is best for you. But I'm going to go ahead to JSTOR here. I'm going to click on JSTOR. And now I am in the tool. So a couple different ways, things we're going to talk about, but our first sort of example here, we are going to talk about just using the JSTOR search bar and all of the different things that can emerge. So again, using the search bar, how can you find what you're looking for? There's also an advanced search in JSTOR, which works pretty much like any other library search. But for today, we're going to look more at broad searching, discovering primary sources, all that good stuff. So say you are coming with an interest in a specific artist or topic, you can use this main central search bar as a way of discovering all those various types of resources. So I am going to start with an example of the artist Buford Delaney. And you can see it's prompting, do I want to just search for Buford Delaney? Is that who I'm interested in as the creator? Is that a title? Or do I want to search for images? I'm going to ignore all this for now, and I'm going to hit enter as it's telling me just to search for the name. So what you may have noticed if you've used JSTOR before is that you get all of these image results here at the top. And then you also start to get all of these journal articles and these scholarly sources. And you can see how this is broken down here on the left, right? If I want the scholarly sources, I can click that I want journals, and all those images are going to go away, and I'm just going to get those article pieces, including a nice article here by James Baldwin. Now uncheck that. But maybe I really want primary source content. I can click and see just those images. You can see all these paintings here, right? And we'll look at those more in just a moment. I can see primary source serials and documents. So as opposed to that like academic content, right? These primary source serials are going to be more historic newspapers, older magazines that are part of these collections we're going to talk about, right? Things that aren't necessarily scholarly research themselves, right? They're not pulling in lots of scholarly sources and they're not in these academic journals, but they are absolutely wonderful primary sources for doing scholarly research. And then the same, there's also sort of a miscellaneous documents category, right? So here's a letter that includes a mention of Buford Delaney. But let me uncheck that so we can kind of see all of our results again. You can filter just like in many databases by date, subject. You can search within your results if you need something specific. But what's really fabulous is that you can just start to browse what's here, right? So if I want to get a closer look at this painting of James Baldwin by Delaney, I can click on it. I get all this really wonderful metadata over here that was provided by the institution that uploaded this image. And in this case, that is the Larry Qualls archive, it looks like. The source here, right? In multiple places, we see that. And then in general, these tend to be really high quality, beautiful reproductions. So you can start to see texture of paintings. You can start to see the grain of photographs, all kinds of things that you may not get just on a Google image or something that you find on the open web. These images are downloadable. Anything on JSTOR is downloadable. I say that. Maybe there's an exception somewhere. Everything I've ever encountered on JSTOR is downloadable. You can share links. You can get citation information in them. Really powerful tools. You can also, if say you're less interested in a specific person, you can search just for a keyword here, right? And start to discover what kind of collections they might have. So if we put in queer, we get the same thing, right? All these journal articles, lots of results, more than just for one artist. But what I think is cool is I could say I'm only interested in documents and start to see all of these primary sources that are here in JSTOR that could be interesting to look at and think about, including things from, it says 2022. I think that's not true. Much older resources, documents. These are art catalogs. This is a student research that's been put in here as a primary source, really all over the map. All different types of things. Pamphlets from just a few years ago, all kinds of stuff to explore. So that's just a taste of the kinds of stuff you can find if you do have a topic or an idea in mind. But what I wanted to share today especially is that there are these tools for browsing the collections in JSTOR. So if you go to the right-hand side, there's browse, and you can browse journals and books, the scholarly stuff by subject, title, publisher. But then these collections and images options are also here for you. So if I click on collections, I can see there are 2,125 image and primary source collections on JSTOR, right? It says, please note that some collections may require institutional access to view or download. We're coming from the RIT library website, so we have that. And you can see there's really interesting things here, right? Everything from a 1939 Rhode Island architecture exhibit to Commonwealth Games that were in Edinburgh in 1970, material on, it's alphabetical, right? So it's a lot of 19th century, journals, paintings, all over the map. Some of it is by host institution. It's whoever uploaded the documents would have classified it as a collection. So we can search again, we could filter by contributor, or we can filter these collections by keyword, right? So they're saying World War I or diaries, but I might try LGBT. And I can see here, right, there's the Lehigh Valley LGBT Community Archive scrapbooks and the FACT photograph collection, the Dixie Dugan White collection of women's rights memorabilia, Independent Voices, which I'm going to go ahead and open in a new tab. This is one of, I think, the most interesting collections on JSTOR. And I also want to mention that if you try different words, like if I put queer in here, I'm going to get totally different results, right? And that's because these collections were uploaded all by different institutions. They're using different terms. So at different times, right? The way we talk about these things has changed over time. So it may be helpful to plug in different terms. I could also, you could look for historical documents related to Indigenous history or Black history or whatever it is you might be interested in. These collections, especially Independent Voices, there's all kinds of great stuff in here. So let me open up Independent Voices, which I opened in that new tab. And what I like about this specific collection is it's broken down also by different topics. So they have their Native American collections, they have right-wing history, they have Latino collections, they have this LGBT collection, which has 25 different publications that chronicle early days of the gay and lesbian movements as they were called in the 1970s, that you can read right here. So if we want to look at the Blazing Star, I can click on it. And I can see that there are 19 different issues of the Blazing Star from the 70s, which are just going to be these really nice quality scans, again, downloadable, of these magazines or newspapers or whatever type of publication from that time. So lots of really interesting things to discover via filtering these collections, via browsing them, and especially by exploring that Independent Voices collection right here. I also want to show you the images option here, right? So these are all of these images that have been brought into JSTOR from Artstor, as well as image collections from JSTOR that were not part of Artstor, which you could filter here if you wanted, right, to sort by geography or where it came from. But what's also great is I can just search for images on topics or by specific artists. Again, these are all uploaded by different institutions into this repository. So you might have to try different terms. But I'm interested in an artist for now. So I'm going to look for Zanele Muholi, who is a photographer. And I am going to search for, I could search for them as the creator, but I'm just going to search right here. And I can see I have some photographs to look at, right? These are all from different institutions, well, not all different, but multiple institutions that are here. And I can click on it. I can, again, see all that metadata, and I can get these really nice, high quality reproductions that are accessible. I will say this is a good moment to point out that this, we had a lot more results for Buford Delaney. JSTOR's strength is really in material that's not super contemporary. So Muholi is a contemporary artist, right? Still making a lot of great work. That it takes some time generally for things to be added to JSTOR for copyright or permissions or all kinds of different reasons. So it's an especially strong tool if you're interested in thinking about 20th century history, 20th century artists, things before that. But if you're wondering why there's only a few results, that's part of it is hyper contemporary or even 21st century art is not the strongest piece there, but still lots of pieces to discover. And if I switched my search to all content up here at the top, I'm also going to see a lot of, things from the 2010s, not 2021, 2024 necessarily, that are scholarly contributions as well. The last thing I want to mention before we wrap up is that we talked about downloading and sharing and citing. You'll also see this save button on anything in JSTOR, be it an Artstor collection, a primary source document, whatever it is. And anyone can make an account, but make sure you make an account that lists your institution as RIT. I'm already logged in here. And you have what's called your workspace. So I have things in my workspace that were migrated over from Artstor, but when you first make your account, your workspace is empty. And what I could do is I can make a folder, and I'll call my folder Pride Month 2024. And I want to add some of these things I've discovered today to it. So maybe the Queer Omaha Ephemera collection. I'm not sure why I'm only seeing one item in it, but maybe they're still working on it. But I could add, here it's because there are multiple things in this one document. But I can click save, and say that I want to put that in my Pride Month 2024 collection. I can do my same search for the artists I was interested in. Back here, I'll put this in my collection. I'll search again, Foley. And I could even take this scholarly article, right? This is a journal article. It should load in just a second. And I can save that in the same folder. And now when I go back to my workspace, there is my, oh, I must have not hit save on something. That's interesting. We had 3. But if I, let's see, if I do my Delaney search again, put in my first name. I want this James Baldwin painting. Let's hit save this time. And there it is in there. I have my 3 items. So you can see how that's a really helpful tool for just keeping stuff you think is cool, or for doing research and assembling primary and secondary sources all together or separately, or however you want to do it. So that is everything that I had to share. I'm happy to hang out for a few more minutes if you have any questions. I will go ahead and stop the recording. But thank you so much for coming, and please let me know today if I can answer questions, or you can always contact the librarian either with the chat button or the Meet Your Librarian button here on the library homepage to ask questions at any time. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.